Good morning. For those of us that are in Alberta, it is the morning. For those of you in other places, it may be the afternoon already. For those of you who have trouble hearing, we do have a live transcription option. So if one of our tech folks, if you could just type that into the chat, let people know that if they click on live transcript at the bottom of their screen, you can enable it. It's an automated transcription, so it's not always perfect. It can actually even bring a little bit of funny moments for you. I hope for those of you that may find that helpful, please use that. On behalf of the Neufeld family, I want to welcome each of you to Diedrich Neufeld's memorial service. My name is Lauren Harms, and I am the community care pastor of Calgary Inter-Mennonite Church, and I will be guiding our time together today. We welcome beloved folks from all over the place, those from Ontario, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, British Columbia, and there's folks all the way in Switzerland and Sweden too. And to those of you who I didn't name where you're from, you are also welcome. We all live and work and play on different traditional territories, and I'd like to take a moment for those of us in southern Alberta who make our homes in the Treaty 7 region to acknowledge the traditional territories of the peoples living here. We acknowledge the Blackfoot Confederacy, the Siksika, Kainai, and Piikani First Nations, the Tsuut'ina, the Eyax Nakota Nations, and the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3. Diedrich, or as many of you know him, Dyck, Dad, or Papa Dyck, passed away on January 15th in the Montfort Hospital in Ottawa, Ontario. We gather this day to remember, to grieve, to celebrate his life, and offer gratitude for the experiences we have had that intertwined with his. I offer this poem to you as a prayer this morning. I've entitled it, A Life Well Lived. A life well lived, rich with folks beloved. A life partner, amazing children, regular, grand, and great. Each relationship treasured, all beautiful and imperfect in their state. An engaged community member in many different places, always serving those in need and leaving many loving traces. A life well lived. Perfect it need not be. Important pieces lost, painful gaps of memory. What a blessing to be surrounded then by those who know his story and lived within the moments of simple beauty and brief glories. We gather together today to remember he lived well. 90 years among us. To you, Diedrich, a loving farewell. I'd like to invite Karen Neufeld, Dyck's daughter, to lead us from the piano, as well as a small group of singers. If you have a blue hymn book at home and like the notes in front of you, we are singing number 614 in that blue book, In the Bulb There Is a Flower. For those of you on Zoom, you may have missed the first verse, but I hope you enjoyed the second two. We'll move into hearing some stories. I'd like to invite Dyck's brother, Herman Neufeld. If you can unmute yourself, we'd love to hear a tribute from you, and following Herman, we'll hear from brother-in-law Abe Hildbrand.
Dyck, my older brother. Who was he to me? Who was he to others? I can only answer the first one as I see it, since Dyck's work took him far away from where we were and contacts were infrequent. Dyck was aware of problems in the wider world, and it was his mission to do what he could to alleviate these. He went to Crete, where many had moved to avoid the mandatory school system. He worked to make sure that education was available to all who were there. He went to Sudbury. There were many addicted people who needed help to overcome their problem and return to normal. He went to Jamaica, where there was great poverty and no way for people to work their way out of this. With media, he could provide resources to those who had ideas but needed money and guidance in how to move ahead. Back in Calgary, MCC needed a director. He took on the job to help MCC advance the help that this organization provides to those in need around the world. And finally, as Alzheimer was robbing him of his abilities to move to where many families were able to assist to help him. Through all of this, I needed to maintain my relationship to this valued brother. In light of this, I have documented the times we have made to make it possible to keep up these contacts. I always had a comfortable relationship with Dyck. Starting with kids together, Dyck was 1.5 years older than I was, and after a few years, we were very close in weight and strength, and so we were always wrestling with no clear winner. We grew up on a farm with limited transportation, so everything we did was as a family. Even as teenagers, Dyck and I had the same friends and traveled together. There was one major difference, however. Dyck was always good at sports and I was not. So in the pickup sports we played, he always was one to be chosen first and I the last. Dyck was very competitive, which carried out throughout his life, even to the point of giving up golf after retirement because he was not happy with his level of play. As long as Dyck and Anna lived in Calgary, we visited together, but as they moved to numerous places for work, neither Dyck and I were good at letter writing or chattering on the phone, so our communications were not frequent. But we did have periodic visits, which were usually longer than a few days. I will list the ones I remember. None of these were the usual kinds of visits where we go to each other's home for a quiet chat. We very much enjoyed these times together with my brother Dyck and Anna. Dyck and Anna moved to Crete, where Dyck was the teacher and principal of a 3-room school. We were living on our dairy farm and I had a hernia operation, so could not work. It was February, and so we packed up our little kids into our Volkswagen Bug and headed out to visit them, despite the cold and snow. We had a great visit, but it was really a rather foolhardy at this time of year, but it was important to have these visits. When they lived in Sudbury and our kids were still young, we traveled to Waterloo and met them at Anna's brother's place. We both had tent trailers and traveled on to Ottawa, where we arrived late at night. We found a campsite, and fortunately there were 2 lovely sites side by side, so we set up and went to bed. We were so close that we could hear Dyck snore as he slept. We found out why these sites were available when at 2 a.m. it became as bright as day and the horn blared loudly as the train rumbled by within feet of our lovely site. We continued on with our holiday together on to Thousand Island Park, where we went on a very interesting cruise of the islands. From somewhere on this trip, we have a picture of our 7 monkeys up on the branches of a large tree. There were Dick's and Anna's 4, our 2, Eldon and Carol's 1. From this, we went back to their place in Sudbury on our way back to Alberta. Dick and Anna moved to Jamaica to work for Mida, so of course we had to visit them there. Pardon me. They stayed 6 years, so we had to go there twice. They lived in Kingston, which was not the safest place in the world, and their house had an open area between the concrete slab and the floors. I, in my ignorance, put my camera on the floor beside my chair, and Dick immediately warned me not to leave it there, since someone would reach in with a stick and sneak it out. They lived in a different world than we were used to. Dick loved to show us Jamaica, and they had a car, so of course we had to travel to the many different areas. He chose to show us the cockpit country, which was inhabited by the former runaway slaves and was still all black, not a safe area in which to stop. It was the only place where we ever heard people call out, "Whitey, Whitey," as we went by. Even in Kingston, we drove with windows mostly closed, since when stopped at a stoplight, someone would reach in and steal a wristwatch off your arm or the necklace off your neck. It was here in Jamaica where I actually saw Dick at work. And the results of that activity, I traveled with Dick to see his clients in their places of business. When we walked into one place, the owner greeted him. "Hi, Dick, I'm so glad to see you." Then he went to the till and pulled out a check. He was so proud of the fact that he could make his first repayment. Dick showed me his books, in which there were documented over 200 small loans with only 2 or 3 failures. Mida made very small loans that were way too small for commercial lenders to be interested. Examples, it might be as low as $50 to buy some hens and sell eggs, or enough to buy an oven to bake bread for sale. The second trip, we went to a resort near Montego Bay, and they came from Kingston and stayed in a missionary home close by that was available to them so we could be close to visit. After Dick and Anna had retired and moved to Ottawa, Lola and I flew out to visit them in their retirement lodge. Pardon me, I think I missed something here.
Do you have yourself organized?
Yeah.
Let it go.
Anyway, the next move was the one to Calgary, where he worked with MCC and to help in that area. The second, after Dick and Anna had retired and moved to Ottawa, Lola and I flew out to visit them in their retirement lodge on an island in the middle of the Rideau River, just below the Parliament buildings. Ken and Cheryl lived in a house close enough to walk, so we stayed there for several nights while we visited with Dick and Anna. We had pleasant walks to the falls and other nearby places, and Dick and I had a long bike ride along the banks of the Rideau River. Dick and Anna, Ken and Cheryl, Lynette and Ricardo all lived within walking distance of each other, and it was great time to getting to know Dick and Anna's partners, or kids' partners, since we had never met them before. A few years later, Lola and I and my siblings joined together on a Holland America cruise from Quebec City to Fort Lauderdale. Dick was showing many signs of Alzheimer's by then and got lost on the ship a few times. Once, when Anna could not find him, we all went searching, and Lola finally found him hidden in a little obscure nook, sitting all by himself. It was at this time that the storm called Sandy was threatening the area in which we were sailing. We headed out into the Atlantic, far from shore, since it was not safe to dock anywhere where the cruise ships normally dock along the ocean. When we were hundreds of miles out, a passenger suffered a heart attack, and we had to turn around and head in closer to shore so that a rescue helicopter could reach the ship. We all stood out on the deck to watched the aerial rescue, but by then it was too late to avoid the storm. We listened as repeated announcements called out place after place where no shelter could be found. Finally, a container ship docked was found about 5 miles up the St. Johns River in North Florida, where we then docked safely and slept while the storm raged on and did its massive damage as it passed over us. We could not continue with the cruise then and had a bus tour from the top to the bottom of Florida to meet our flight back home. Again, a more memorable experience with Dyck. As Dyck's Alzheimer's progressed further, I decided it was time to see if I could have one more visit with Dyck. Lola did not join me, but my sister Anna and Abe joined me in the flight.
Elma. Your sister Elma.
My sister Elma and Abe joined me in the flight to Ottawa, where Abe and Elma stayed at Ken's place, and I had a guest room in the complex where Dyck and Anna lived. Sadly, Dyck still knew who we were, but there was really no meaningful conversation possible. So we played many games of crokinole, which he still enjoyed. So long, brother. You are in peace now. We will miss you. Thanks.
Muted? Okay.
Yep.
All right, Dave, go ahead.
Am I on?
Yes.
First of all, let me say that Dyck was a man when he saw something that he was really enthused about or something that he'd like to see done, he was sure to see it get done. And first, this little story about when we were in MBI, we were roommates, and we didn't like the color of the room that we were in. So what to do? So we went and asked permission to paint our room. We didn't even go to the county for a permit to. We just went ahead and painted the room. We had the nicest room in the whole dorm. Next memorable occasion was when Dyck and Anna moved to Sudbury. Dyck rented a truck and a U-Haul trailer, the belongings to the new home in Sudbury. The trip to Ontario was uneventful. Went well. We took the Canadian route to Sudbury, but the Ontario #1 highway was rough and poor condition. Dyck decided to come back to Alberta through the US route. It was Sunday afternoon and driving was good. And all of a sudden, we heard a big loud bang and the scratch on the pavement. The bolt that holds the ball on the truck hitch had broken, and the safety chains kept the trailer in tow behind the truck. What to do? We left the empty trailer on the side of the highway and drove to the nearest town. It being Sunday afternoon, there was no service available for repairs. So we took a motel and had to wait till the repair shop opened on Monday morning. It was not a big job to repair, but with our new and bigger boat, we were illegal to drive and pull that trailer in the United States. We enjoyed the rest of the trip from knowing the new parts would take us home safely, and it did.
We will now enjoy a slideshow that has been lovingly put together by Dyck's son-in-law, Ricardo Rodriguez.
Four strong winds that blow lonely, 7 seas that run high, all those things that don't change, come what may. Our good times are all gone, I'm bound for moving on. I'll look for you if I'm ever back this way. I think I'll go out to Albert. Weather's good there in the fall. I've got some friends that I could go to working for. Still, I wish you'd change your mind if I'd ask you one more time. But we've been through that 100 times or more. 4 strong winds that blow lonely, 7 seas that run high. All those things that don't change, come what may. Our good times are all gone. I'm bound for moving on. I'll look for you if I'm ever back this way. If I get there before the snow flies, if things are looking good, you can meet me. If I send you down the fair, but by then it will be winter. There ain't too much for you to do, 'cause those winds sure blow cold way out there. 4 strong winds that blow lonely, 7 seas that run high. All those things that don't change, come what may. Our good times are all gone. I'm bound for moving on.
Dusty old farmer out working your field, hanging down over your tractor wheel. The sun beating down turned the red paint to orange, and rusty old patches of steel. There's no farmer songs on that car radio, just cowboys, truck drivers, and pain. Well, this is my way to say thanks for the meal, and I hope there's no shortage of rain. Straw hat and old dirty hankies, mopping a face like a shoe. Thanks for the meal, here's a song that is real, from a kid from the city to you. Straw hat and old dirty hankies, mopping a face like a shoe. Thanks for the meal, here's a song that is real, from a kid from the city to you. The combines gang up and take most of the bread. Things just ain't like they used to be. Though your kids are out after the American dream, and they're working in big factories. If I come by when you're out in the sun, can I wave at you just like a friend? These days when everyone's taking so much, there's somebody giving back in.
Alberta bound, Alberta bound. It's good to be Alberta bound, Alberta bound. It's good to be Alberta bound. Oh, the skyline of Toronto is something you'll get onto, but they say you got to live there for a while. And if you got the money, you can get yourself a honey with a written guarantee to make you smile. But it's snowing in the city and the streets are brown and gritty, and I know there's pretty girls all over town, but they never seem to find me, and the one I left behind me is the reason that I'll be Alberta bound. Alberta bound, Alberta bound. It's good to be Alberta bound. Alberta bound, Alberta bound. It's good to be Alberta bound. It's good to be Alberta bound. Sail on, silver girl, sail on by. Your time has come to shine. All your dreams are on their way. See how they shine.
Memories from the grandchildren, youngest to eldest. Dylan. Mama and Papa would take care of me when my sister was horseback riding. I remember Papa would tell me stories about the farm. Andrew. I don't have a lot of memories of Papa Dyck. I was 8 when I joined the family, and 2 or 3 years later, Papa moved to Ottawa. I do remember having fun on the canoe trips with him. I also had fun skating with him in Ottawa one Christmas when we were visiting. Nicole. I really enjoyed playing crokinole with Papa and how his face would light up every time he got a cookie, which was basically every other shot. Kate. I always enjoyed when Papa would be around when I was growing up, often at my house when I would finish school. One thing I remember doing most frequently was taking trips to Totem for supplies so he could complete a project. His craftsmanship was always so awe-inspiring, and I didn't mind the free bag of popcorn. Elijah. One great memory I had of Papa was when I was young and he would put me on his knee and bounce me while chanting this song, Hoppy Hoppy Reiter, which until this day, I do not know the words. Neither do I, Elijah. When the song would end, he would drop his knee and I would fall down. It was very exciting when I was young. At some point, I changed the words from German to Hoopa Roopa Rider pooping in a diaper. I found it funny. I don't know if he did. I also remember fishing with him and canoeing at the cabin near Sudbury. Lots of fish and snapping turtles. And then there was the skinny dipping incident. Leave you all wondering about that. Hannah. Some of my memories of Papa Dyck. Finding him in the workshop in our backyard at Thorncliffe and helping him with various projects. Hearing the gate in the morning when he came back to pick up Brandy for her morning walk. Tobogganing with him in the Edgemont Gully. Describing to him my request for an elaborate wooden bookcase for all my Roald Dahl books, and him making me a much simpler, more functional shelf. Hiking the Heart Mountain Trail with a group from MCC, and him helping me down when I couldn't quite make it to the top. Finding him either in his wine cellar in Edgemont or playing solitaire on his computer after dinner. Watching Blue Jays games with him in Ottawa and him falling asleep during the game. I'd like to invite Ken Neufeld, Dyck's son, to offer a tribute now.
Okay, you're unmuted.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I was really privileged to have the opportunity to be with Dad a lot over the last years, and I thought I would share some of the things that I experienced and learned during that time. So he suffered such a lot from his dementia. It was a really cruel fate for him, but it was a blessing that he was able right to the end to remember his family. He didn't always recognize people right away, but with assists he would, and he would, on a good day, Mom would drill him on the names, and he could get through that. So it was a real blessing because he had dementia for a long time, and it's unusual that he would still have such an awareness of his family. I'm really relieved that he had that opportunity. COVID was also another cruel fate that he suffered, and but again, there were blessings in that he was able to get visits from so many people in his family. Mom was with him, near him, and he had wonderful staff around him at this long-term care, many of whom became his friends. So I would walk into his room and I would always say, no matter what, I would always say, "Hello, Papa Dyck." And he would, even no matter how confused he was or asleep, he would automatically just say, "Hello, son Ken." And then I'd say, "How are you, Dad?" And he'd often say, even if he's having a bad day, he'd say, "Well rested, well fed." And then I would say, "It's almost lunch," or "It's almost breakfast," or "It's almost dinner. Are you hungry?" And he'd always say the same thing. "Not really, but I can always eat." And actually, that's true. He could always eat, especially if there were cookies involved. Sitting with him, as Uncle Herman pointed out, wasn't easy. Getting him engaged in conversation wasn't easy, but there were ways around that, and sitting there for over the years, I found a number of ways to get him engaged. he needed to walk down the pathways of his memories, and that worked. So a few things that were that always I thought I would give you a list of some of his favorite things. As previously mentioned, Alberta was one of his favorite things. So most conversations somehow would come around to a reference to Wild Rose Country again. As and he was very proud also of being a farmer. Most of the staff at the Gary J. Armstrong building are convinced that he was a farmer, because he was definitely reverting in his old age, both fashion-wise, conversation-wise, and behavior-wise. For example, his favorite outfit was blue jeans and a jean jacket. My friend from Texas calls that a Canadian tuxedo. For Dad, that was high fashion, even though he had aspired so much to becoming the kind of person who wore a suit to work. But he reverted over the years. Another thing that he reverted to was he started to want to be called Diedrich again instead of Dyck. And he'd made a joke all his life long about hoping to fulfill the prophecy in his name, which is died rich. And in fact, he did die rich of friends, experiences, and contributions to the world. Other things that he loved and that you could still engage him on over the years: singing. He kept his good voice. He loved woodworking, and so conversations about woodworking always worked. Crokinole was a never fail. He taught lots of people here at the staff. You could come in and find staff playing crokinole with him sometimes. And then something new that was a great diversion for him was laughing at Kalia videos. He never got to meet her, unfortunately, but he sure grew to love her, and always smiled and laughed, no matter how hard that day was. His commitment to social and economic justice was pointed out. The one thing that a lot of that had faded in his mind, but one thing that was there and that you could visit with him about, and I take that to mean that he viewed that as his greatest professional contribution, was his work with Rockhaven. Mom and Dad started that home in Sudbury, and it's now an enormous, thriving institution there. I spoke to them this week, and they knew exactly who he was. They knew all the dates, even though I had cold called them. They had all of that information in their heads. So he's obviously left a mark there, and it left a mark on him. And then last but not least, we can't forget his great passion, which was mother. And right to the end of the days, he would, if she wasn't in the room or wasn't around, he'd set off on expeditions with his walker trying to find her. And the staff inevitably talk about how much he loved Mom and his family, and he always valued his time and with them, and was ready to talk about it. So we miss you, Dad, and we're gonna try to make you proud of us. And you left a great heritage in the world, so thank you.
I'd like to invite Karen Neufeld, Dyck's daughter, to share with us Bach's Jesu, Joy of Man's Desiring. And following the piece, we'll hear a few words from Brenda Dyck.
That was beautiful, Karen. I know how your dad loved your piano playing. To Anna and to all of Dyck's family, thank you for the opportunity and honor to pay tribute to Dyck. It's almost impossible to speak of him without speaking of you, Anna, his beloved wife and partner for 66 years. It's almost like a tribute should be Dyck, #Dyck and Anna, one word. My reflections today are as an open letter to Dyck, shared in the hope that they invoke in all of you present, both virtually and in person, some of your own memories of him. Dear Dyck, I remember the first Sunday you and Anna attended our church, which was meeting at St. Charles School in 1991. You had just returned from Jamaica, having worked there with Mida for 6 years. I recall thinking that I hoped you two would settle with our church, and I'm so grateful that you did. Shortly after you began attending our faith community, our worship committee asked you both to tell about your work in Jamaica. Your stories were rich and peppered with humor and fond recollections of the people you had met while helping them set up small business enterprises. We three attended a book study group of 6 at CIM for at least 10 years. In our church community gatherings and in this group, I noticed that you were both very open and progressive in your thinking. Dyck, you were an avid observer of the political scene and a voracious reader of Atlantic Monthly, Maclean's, The Economist, as well as current books in a similar genre. In our study group social times, you would often share updates about the people you had come to know in Jamaica and with whom you stayed connected through letters, phone calls, and emails. You always spoke of these people with such great affection and respect. You and Anna loved to travel and would combine learning and adventure with visiting your children, Ken and Cheryl in Africa, and Lynette and Ricardo, and later their children in Mexico. As I recall, Dyck, you did the trek at Machu Picchu in Peru all the way to the top at 2,430 meters. One wonderful hiking tour you and Anna took through Great Britain with Ken and Cheryl, I believe, where some of the trails passed through farmland and required you to clamber over wooden fences and stone walls, which you did with ease, and you had the pictures to prove it. As a couple, you had a gift for hospitality, making others feel welcome and valued. You were often one of the first families at church to invite newcomers to your home. When you moved to your Thorncliffe home, Anna now had space to grow flowers and vegetables to her heart's content. When she wanted new planters or lattice for climbing plants, you built them, creating a lovely outdoor sanctuary together where you hosted many gatherings. You both had tender hearts for those who struggled due to life circumstances. When Pepita, your son Ken's friend from Burundi, and her darling daughter Roxanne came to live in Calgary, you supported them by helping them find a home and work for Pepita, enlisting our study group's willing involvement. Later, they moved to Ontario, and when Pepita was getting married, you traveled there to celebrate with them as their Canadian family. You were both fierce advocates for our church's affirming stance of solidarity for persons who identified as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer. When our church was embroiled in its conversations with the conferences over this position, your personal commitment, Dyck, was to be present at all the conference gatherings at Mennonite Church, Alberta, as a sign of our church's presence. Dick, the twin themes of social justice and service wove their way like golden threads through your life and career choices, which I believe embodied your faith. From an early career teaching public school to becoming the founding director of Rock Haven, an alcoholism rehabilitation center, to providing affordable public housing, to supporting small business development in Jamaica, to serving as executive director of MCC Alberta. Your life work was serving those who needed a hand up and recognizing their worth, supporting them in living a life of dignity with at least life's basic necessities. Your life was the text, and its message was gospel, good news to those you served. Upon retirement, you became a volunteer with Mennonite Historical Society of Alberta, giving back to the community as well as investing in the preservation of Mennonite history. There you met Dave Hildbrand and introduced Dave and Kay to our church, and we were grateful. In our church, you worked on the facilities committee, doing renovation projects to keep our little church home running smoothly. He sang bass in the CIM choir and volunteered as our Mennonite mutual insurance adjuster. Your love of music continued with your singing with Corpus Christi Men's Chorale from 2005 to 2009. You did beautiful woodwork over the years. On my last visit to your Thorncliffe home, before you left for Ottawa, you showed me your most recent project, 2 beautiful wood boxes in which to place your and Anna's ashes. Although initially taken aback, on reflection, I realized these creations reflected your down-to-earth realism, your practicality, your courage, and your wisdom. On May 2nd, 2010, Calgary Inter-Mennonite said farewell to you and Anna in a service of blessing and sending, as you left your home in Calgary and your faith community with us and moved to Ottawa. Dick, when you received your diagnosis of dementia, you spoke very openly about it and related that your mother had lived with it also. I noticed that you were a good steward of the life you'd been given, nurturing health and well-being by balancing work with playing, by biking, curling, hiking, and canoeing, to name just a few activities. I believe that your greatest sense of love, pride, and joy came from your family of 4 gifted and competent children: Ken, Philip, Karen, and Lynette, whom Anna and you raised together. That love and pride extended to your grandchildren, Hannah, Kate, Elijah, Andrew, Nicole, and Dylan, and now to your great-granddaughter, Kalia Jade, and to your children's spouses, Leslie, Ricardo, and John. I remember how you regaled us often with your family's adventures and achievements, and your pride was so evident. Your life of faith, together with Anna and apart, Dick, has been marked by hospitality, generosity of time, of means, and of spirit, service, commitment to social justice, and compassion. You have inspired us and have made our world a better place to live. Early on in the pandemic, Anna had asked if I might call you, as you were isolated in COVID lockdown and no one could visit you. On Wednesday, April 28th, 2020, I called and you answered on the 5th ring. I wasn't sure if you remembered me. However, you seemed happy to talk. You told me about watching the gulls by the Rideau River and about the book you were reading, country roads in rural Alberta. At times you couldn't hear me, so I spoke louder and repeated myself. You seemed in good spirits and appreciative of our talk. When we said goodbye, you said, "I love you." I was surprised and touched, and I responded, "I love you too, Dick." Your last words to me felt like a blessing, perhaps a familiar habit practiced in your family. But it was a reminder that in the end, only love remains, and that is enough. Dick, Anna told our church on January 15th that you had passed away and said, "Praise the Lord." In that honest expression, I heard her relief and gratitude that you were finally free from the limits and pain of dementia. Your family have watched your decline and with sadness and at times helplessness and despair, but always with love and concern, having known you as a vital, active, generous, helpful person that you were. When someone we love dies, that wrenching loss leaves a wound in our hearts. For those who have loved you, Dick, you have left a space that no one else can fill. Each one will need to find ways to lament, grieve, celebrate, honor, and remember you that are authentic to our relationship with you. Some ways of healing, maybe telling stories and sharing memories, looking at photos, biking, hiking, traveling, taking long, quiet walks, playing music, singing songs, reading books, dancing, painting, writing haiku like Anna, or taking up a cause that was important to you. My hope is that in time and with healing, your loved ones will remember you without so much sadness and pain and will move forward in love and gratitude, memories of you forever a part of them. I believe with all my heart that you, Dick, have been welcomed home by the great love and have joined the great cloud of witnesses who surround us, encourage us, and strengthen us on our way. This quote about success from Ralph Waldo Emerson seems to reflect your life so well. To laugh often and love much, to win the respect of intelligent people and the affection of children, to earn the appreciation of honest critics and endure the betrayal of false friends, to appreciate beauty, to find the best in others, to leave the world a little better, whether by a healthy child, a garden patch, or a redeemed social condition, to know even one life has breathed easier because you have lived. This is to have succeeded. By these standards, Dick, you've checked all the boxes and so much more. Rest in peace, dear man, with love, blessing, and hugs until we meet again. Brenda.
Thank you, Brenda, and to all the tributes that have been shared today. With Brenda's assistance, we were able to find a recording of Dick performing with the Corpus Christi male chorale, and that's a choir from here in Calgary. This is a recording of Lord, Make Me an Instrument. And when Karen and I were sitting together in her backyard planning this service, Karen After we listened to this piece, Karen said to me, let's end with this. Let's let my dad have the final word. And I thought that was so appropriate. So following this song, you will be invited to join a breakout room for those of you on Zoom for a time of fellowship. So if you have some coffee at home or a cup of tea, maybe a cookie, as we know Dyck would have approved of, enjoy that and enjoy each other's company. And if you're in a room where maybe you don't know anyone, maybe share how you're connected and how you know Dyck. Thanks to everyone who's been involved in making this morning possible, from our musicians to our speakers, to those behind the scenes working on our tech. We are so grateful. And the final blessing and word is yours, Diedrich. Lord, make me an instrument. For those of you that are departing, go in peace. For those of you that are able to share some time with one another, may your time together be nourishing and warm in the company of others. Go in peace.
Will they tell me of a home where no storm clouds rise? Tell me of that home far away. Will they tell me of a home where my friends have gone? Won't they tell me of an uncloudy day? Oh, the land of cloudless day. Oh, the land of an uncloudy sky. that he smiles on the children's face. Smiles drive the sorrows away. And they tell me that the fear never comes again. Oh, they tell me of an uncloudy day. Oh, the land of cloudless days. Oh, the land of an uncloudy sky. Will they tell me of a home where no storm clouds rise?